All right, y'all.
Let the games be. Let the games begin. Safe driving, my friend. Let's get you a weapon.
Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome. We are live at Lynn's Arcade. We have Michael Matson and Matthew Talley here, and with us with Stern is Elliot, lead designer on John Wick, and Tim Sexton, the lead developer. Let me go ahead and stop this awesome video from playing. Welcome, welcome. How's our audio sound? Can you guys talk as well too, Michael and Matthew? Everyone say hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
How's everybody in the chat doing? There we go. There's your beautiful faces. Welcome. So we're here celebrating everything John Wick, and in a few days we're actually going to be at Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show, presenting 20 John Wicks there. We'll have a big booth set up, kind of a Red Circle Club vibe, neon noir cityscape. So we hope everyone can come out, meet Elliot, and he's going to be doing a seminar with Randy Martinez there. So it's going to be a great time. But for now, we're going to talk everything John Wick. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's
All
talk
right.
about John Wick.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Hey, folks. Michael Matson here, also known as DRI374. I'm going to be the host on the floor here in the arcade. With me, I got Matthew Talley. He's one of the owners of the arcade. And I'm super excited, super stoked to play, to talk about this game. We're not going to play it. Maybe we'll start a game or two, who knows. But I'm more excited to have Elliot and Tim from Stern here to talk about the game more in detail and kind of answer all our burning questions, right? And the first thing that kind of struck everyone's mind when this game came out was the rumor that we had a new designer at Stern, right? So game number one is out the door, Elliot. Like, describe like to the audience what's going through your mind as people kind of giving you unsolicited advice and solicited advice or a new game that you've been designing, right? It must be exciting. Let us hear it.
No, it is super exciting. I do love hearing people's comments, what stuff they like, stuff they don't like. I just like to see all sorts of feedback. But no, it is really exciting just to finally be able to talk about it, because we've been developing this thing for so long. It's like you just feel like, okay, it's done, and then it's just there's more months that go by. You're like, okay, well. But yeah, no, it's finally great to finally start talking about it.
Oh, that's awesome. So the game has actually been done for months and months, and you're just waiting for that kind of go live date for everything? Is that how it works?
Well, not necessarily. It's just you reach it to a point of doneness in your head.
Yeah,
There's a
right,
lot
right.
more like finality of like getting it out the door and getting it mass producible and all that sort of stuff. So like for me, it feels like it's just been so long, but we work all the way up until the end.
Understood. So I'm a little bit interested about your kind of background in this, right? We kind of know that you've been working at Stern for quite a while, right? But what is your pinball story? When I looked you up on IFPA, you're not that big of a player, right? So what's your background and history going into pinball?
Okay, so my pinball story, it goes back when I graduated college. I didn't have a job. I found a job at Caterpillar. I didn't like what I was doing, and then I decided to move back kind of by home. And I worked for a company called Incredible Technologies because I knew I wanted to do more like design work. And so I worked there a year. They were trying to get slot machines off the ground, helped them with a cabinet there. Then they let me go because they were going through some hard times. But my boss knew George Gomez. So he's like, hey, I don't want to let you like not have a job because I like what you were doing. So he called up George, and then I got an interview pretty much the next day. And then I'm like, I didn't actually knew they still made pinball machines at the time. This was in 2014.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool, I'll try that out, and just kind of stuck here ever since because it's just been a lot of fun and I've learned so much by doing this, and yeah, I'm finally here like designing games now.
Yeah. But so you're not a player. I mean, you weren't into pinball before. You just kind of slid in on a banana peel. It sounds like.
Yeah, kind of. Like the only pinball machine I'd played was my uncle had a Comet, and I loved playing that thing. And the callouts are still burned in my head because I played it for a long time. But yeah, I can hear the shooter groove right now in my head. It's kind of creepy, but we all have those games. But so I really didn't know it existed still. I just thought it was, a hobby that people bought old machines and stuff. But yeah, no, I was like really excited to work here when I found out, oh man, they actually make new stuff.
Oh wow, yeah, that's awesome. So so you've been at this now since 2014, basically.
Yep.
Then?
Yep.
Wow.
So this is over 10 years.
Yeah. So there's many ways to become a game designer at Stern that we kind of learned because there's been many new designers coming on aboard recently, but yours must have been the longest kind of career path to get where you're at, right? So how did all this come together?
So I initially just started there as started at Stern here as a mechanical engineer because that's what I like to do. Or what I went to school for, and I really like mechanical sort of mechanisms and designing those. So that's what I started with, and then I came to a point where I didn't feel like I was progressing anymore, and then I was like, oh, I've learned so much stuff.
Oh no, did we lose him? Everything is frozen. Emoto is frozen.
Can you hear us?
Yeah,
I think
you're
I'm having
back.
technical.
Yeah, you're back.
Oh yeah, we
Okay.
could still hear y'all perfect. I'm not
that's-
sure. Maybe your internet in Monterey was there was a big airplane that flew by or something.
Yeah, probably was.
Probably.
Yeah. So
Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So what was the
Continue.
last? Yeah. Continue with what you're saying.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just thought it would be like a fun thing to try, and I've learned so much stuff from observing all of these other, really great designers. So yeah, I pitched it to George, and he's like, well, you got to make a machine first. So I made a few prototypes in my that like this is probably my third layout I've actually done that George had to make sure I could actually do it first. So that's kind of how I got into being a designer.
Oh, gotcha. So you have a bunch of like prototype designs, basically, that lays out a potential game and shows kind of how it shoots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that how you put it? Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and that's I think how a lot of other designers that we've hired have done. They've made like a homebrew or something like that to kind of show off their skills and what they can do, the creativity net wise, and so a similar process, just more internal.
Yeah.
So
Understood.
George is the guy that you need to impress
Yes,
to get that role, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
that seems about right.
Any tips and tricks to impress George Gomez that you could share with us?
Oh man, I don't
What is he
everything off the
like?
top of my
Good
head, but
spinner rips?
yeah,
27
he likes a
spinners
lot
in
of
the open.
flash.
Yeah,
If
If
you
you do
really
anything,
want,
do it with pizzazz.
if
yeah,
you really want to be a designer
Yeah.
and you want to, first of all, you would want to design a game, but then you want to try to think about as you're designing a game, how would someone manufacture this? Like, how could other people build this? Because
Mhm.
it's gonna be a lot of
Yeah.
learning to put together your first game.
yeah,
But from that learning experience, think about, okay, now I kind of know this. What could I change to make this more like other people could build more of these? I think
Right.
that's a big thing, like for homebrew people who are really curious about the process. It's think about that transition between making a game for yourself or a homebrew and then making multiple copies of that game and what that would take.
Yeah. That's definitely something that I bet that you have a lot of experience since you've been working on a lot of games
Yeah,
leading up to this point, right?
that was the easy part for me.
Yeah, understood. Getting the manufacturing process right. And that said, I mean, I checked through the IPDB database on titles you worked on there, and I cannot help to find like that you worked on WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
And it has like the slingshot kind of flipper mech on top, which is
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant, right? And now on this game we have a slingshot mech that kind of sits in an odd location up here at the nightclub, right? So what was that your design on WrestleMania? Has that kind of followed you all the way to your first game?
No, that was Trudeau's idea for that whole controllable slings, which turned out really cool.
Yeah.
No, I try to gain inspiration from everyone I worked with, and really it just comes down to what actually played the best. That was, I think, the third or fourth iteration, I don't know, of that little area that I did just to make sure that it had the most action and it kind of represented what I wanted to do. As far as, it needs to be exciting. So
Yeah.
you need to have a lot of action and, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you definitely want a lot of action up there because from what I understand, I haven't played the game a lot, but when you have the ball kind of going in the sling and the pop, you light up enemies, right, on the main shots, and you want to have a lot of enemies lit that you can kill to advance to your, you shoot the administration to start the adversary battles.
And they're also a big factor of the scoring in the modes. I mean, the more enemies you've killed on the ball or the game, and then especially in the mode, they're building up your score values for the modes. That's probably the biggest factor in building those scores up right now.
Oh wow, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the scoring tactics a bit later. But since we have you on the horn here now, Tim, so you've been with Stern for a couple of years here as well, and you've been working mostly on musical or the music pins, where I also count Black Knight as a music pin because the music is so awesome there. But so this is like your first movie IP since Deadpool, is that correct?
Yeah, Deadpool was Tanya was the lead developer, and Deadpool's not actually based on the films; it's based on the comic series.
Oh,
So-
yeah, that's right.
Deadpool has a movie, which is cool because that's also like stuff you could get inspired by. But this is definitely as a lead developer. I mean, I worked on Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park's a film IP like originally. Like that's
Okay.
the movie was first, and then the dinosaur stuff was inspired by the movie. But yeah, this is as a lead developer my first movie game based on 4 movies now of John Wick.
Yeah, and I also heard on the Stone Insider podcast that you're quite a fan of John Wick as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later as well,
Okay.
like how we get into that.
I'm always happy to talk John Wick.
Yeah, yeah. Let's hear all about it later. But so one thing I've kind of wanted to kind of get out of you since you're like a proper tournament player, right? I just looked at your IFBA profile. You're like ranked 86. You ended up like 4th at the Indies this year, right? And I just wonder like how much of that kind of energy from the tournament scene goes into the games that you design from a software perspective. Is that your goal to kind of make a good tournament game?
It's not my goal. Like I don't set out with the objective to be like I'm gonna make a good tournament game, because I think the cool thing about tournaments, so I definitely have a lot of expertise in tournaments, is that like every game can be a good tournament game. Like to me, one of the best tournament games is Stars, the Stern game, because it's so
The
challenging that
equalizer.
no one can master it.
Yeah,
And so like every flip counts. Like that's a good tournament game. But
absolutely.
I think the biggest advantage that being a tournament player brings you in coming into this job is the encyclopedia of rules knowledge you have from games of all eras, of all times, and like what worked, how those games evolved. And since as a tournament player you really have to learn a lot of games and a lot of scoring strategies, it helps you just build the instinct of what feels good for pinball. Because if you're to come in and make rules as a complete outsider to pinball, you're probably going to look at things like video games and some things that work really well in video games, like, oh, I'll just pick up something and put it in my inventory and I'll access it later. Well, how do you access that? You know, it's like you don't have a menu to go through, right? In pinball, it's like everything that happens reacts now. And so definitely when we have people here with all sorts of backgrounds at Stern, and it's interesting when people come in with more of a games background because they're so used to just having time and transitions between things and the instantaneousness of like, I hit a shot, it has to happen now. Well, what if this was happening? Don't care, throw it in the trash can. Like it doesn't matter anymore because that happened 2 seconds ago. Like, well, how do you know, it's like, well, it's pinball. Whatever the ball is doing is the most important thing.
Absolutely. So going back to historically with you two, is this your first game that you're worked together on? If you kind of
I feel like I've worked with Elliot on every single game I've worked on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Elliot has done pretty much every big mech on every game that I've worked on.
Oh,
I've been at Stern
Yeah.
for 6 years, and Elliot's also been the lead on a couple of games I worked on. He was the lead on Rush, but
Yeah.
he did stuff on Black Knight. He did
I did
stuff.
the topper for Black Knight.
He did
sweet.
the Electric
Red
Magic for Led
Topper.
Zeppelin. Yeah, he's done a lot
Yeah.
of toppers too.
Oh wow.
So I've worked with Elliot constantly at my time
Yeah.
at Stern.
It is true.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're kind of a little group here now. That's like the new Dynamite team, right? That organically came out of as a lead software designer and a lead game designer. So we basically have a brand new team. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have like at Stern, I mean, I think the thing that's most interesting about Stern is that from that 2011 time when George is hired to now, the company's grown so much and there's so many people there.
Yeah.
And going back to that like 2011 time, teams were small. Maybe 7 people worked on a game. And I was doing the credits for this game and I counted almost 50 people who had directly impacted the game.
Oh wow.
So, you know, you don't even think about that because maybe you'll interact with, you know, a handful of people every day. And then the next day you'll interact with a different handful of people. And then suddenly you're like, oh, yeah, throughout the game, you know, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, software engineering, art, sound. Like you go through so many people and you're like, oh, yeah, we did interact with all those people and they all made an impact on the game.
Mm-hmm.
So the team, you know, we're 2 people from the team and we've worked on this game for a long time. But the team is a lot of collaborative teammates who come in for a mech, who come in for a couple things in the code, and then move on to another project. So it's all very collaborative at Stern with how people move around to the projects.
Yeah. Everybody kind of get to use their kind of superpower ability to contribute to the project. Is that kind of a way to see it?
It is, and there's also learning opportunities as far as working at Stern. Like right now,
Yes.
I've got Josh Henderson on my team, and he's brand new. This is his first game. And Josh, being another tournament guy, really had that grasp on the rules. But this past week, I've been making him work on light shows because that's like a new thing to learn, that he'll have that skill in software development and game development to do more of the effects that way. And that kind of stuff is like, there's a lot of learning opportunities of like the little intricacies of pinball and what you could bring to the game in different ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, we kind of want to get to that. We'll talk about the expression lighting and stuff later on. That's awesome. So let's talk about John Wick. The deal kind of signed as you got this IP that is going to be a pinball machine. And going back to you, Tim, there, that you're a huge fan of John Wick, right? So were you kind of elbowing your way up to this IP? I want to work on this, or like how does that work, right? I know
Yes,
you're
good
not allowed to
guess.
talk. Yeah, good guess. Yeah.
Dibs.
Yeah, I mean, the company we work for, we do a lot of titles every year, right? And so there's stuff that I'm not going to work on, especially as a lead. Being a lead means you work on a project for a lot longer, which means
Yeah.
you miss a lot of projects. Whereas when I was early on at Stern, I worked on Iron Maiden and then Deadpool right away, and then I worked on like Jurassic Park right after that or something. So, so as a lead, you only get so I didn't know what was going on with Jaws, right? That was the game behind me, and like the games that are ahead of me, I don't know too much about what's going on. But Wick, I was like, well, I already know a lot about this, and I heard that it was on, the discussion table, and I said, a lot of from finding the team of people to work on the game. We constantly talk in the office about what's cool, what's happening now, what's oh, there's this new TV show. Oh, this movie looks really cool. Oh, I saw it. It was even better than I thought. Like, there's pop culture stuff everywhere that we're all enthusiastic about.
Yeah, of course.
So periodically I'll plant hints and do my little, hey, I heard Jody was talking to someone and there's a game coming. If it comes up, let me know. I do stuff like that.
Yeah. So you kind of need to lobby the things that you want to work on.
Yeah. And then finally,
yeah.
when the ink's dry and they're like, okay, we've got a deal. Tim, you want to work on John Wick? I'm like, oh, I do. Let me think about it. No, never mind. I'll do it.
All right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how about you, Elliot? Did John Wick strike you as, yeah, that's my favorite kind of action hero, sort of, or did you just kind of come along for the ride?
So I actually didn't know. I knew about John Wick. I just never watched it at the time. Actually, I had the opposite experience of Tim. I didn't know it was coming up, and then they're like, "Hey, you want to work on this game?" I'm like, "Sure."
All right.
And then I watched the movies right away, and I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome! Like, this is going to be the most exciting game I think we've made." And yeah, that's just kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, it's definitely a kind of a franchise that translates perfectly into pinball because it never sits still, right?
Yeah.
So
there's like action
awesome.
movies and comedies are the two that really translate to pinball very well.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing too is when we started working in 2022 on the game, there hadn't been a John Wick movie in 5 years. So there was, people knew John Wick 4 was coming, but the marketing hadn't even started yet. And so pretty quickly after we actually kicked off the project, the marketing started coming for John Wick 4 and it started looking really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that movie coming out last year was a really big hit for the series too, which made it very exciting to work on while that was all happening.
Yeah,
for sure. So I see a lot of elements from John Wick 4 in the game, and was that sort of by choice, or like, so how, if we kind of like divvy up the play field here, like is all 4 movies kind of represented in an equal manner, or how would you describe that?
I mean, for the playfield, we tried to pick what was the coolest things from the franchise as a whole, and we tried to get inspired by a lot of the elements from all movies. So I don't know if there's an equal distribution of everything, but is what we thought it was cool.
Yeah, makes sense to kind of build a story around the IP. And so the term kind of neo-noir kind of gets thrown around a lot, right? And to me that word was just entirely new, but it's kind of mentioned in the first sentence on the Wikipedia page if you check out John Wick, right? And what is neo-noir for the people who not familiar with it? So how do you go about and describe it? When you
I'll take a stab at this one.
Yeah,
this is a tough question because it's pretty much a term that has emerged specifically as an attempt to describe director Chad Stahelski's directorial style of the John Wick films. And I listened to, so as someone who had to go really deep on John Wick, I listened to a lot of director interviews and I have a lot of respect for Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick. And to give you a reason why I think he's so cool is he was Keanu Reeves' stunt double on The Matrix. So he got his start in Hollywood as a stunt actor worked his way up to a second unit director who did a lot of stunt scenes for films, and then worked his way now to this franchise director. And he's the creative director of the whole John Wick franchise now with Lionsgate. So his stylings of filmmaking are interesting because he really has that focus on realistic action, like realistic film action. What could people actually accomplish with their bodies? Because he's a stunt actor and he knows like how far people can push themselves. And then what looks good on camera. And when he gets in the what looks good on camera, that's where the Noir comes in, because he goes crazy with the lighting and creates these worlds that are very bright and colorful, and coming out of a tradition of Western Hollywood, as he describes, where action movies are supposed to be so gritty and dark, and you've got like RoboCop and warehouses in St. Louis where they film and stuff. Everything's just like browns and grays, and he brings all this color to it. Now that's the neon. The noir is the part that really confuses me about that term. Is noir makes me think black and white and like old ice films, but I think it's just kind of like the gritty neon maybe of style of it is how they're trying to describe Stahelski's filmmaking style, because people have started taking a lot of cues from him on lighting, and there's it's any business, like creative business, people are going to look at what other people are doing and go, oh, I like the way these shots look in an action film. And I think you've seen lately, or I have because I'm so dialed in on this stuff, oh, this movie Monkey Man is a John Wick-like movie. So you hear things now compared to John Wick as that base. And I think that's where that neon noir style also is coming from. It's the action style plus the lighting style.
Yeah, understood. Yeah,
and
because
rain.
And rain,
Lots of
yeah.
rain.
There's that constant
Very
wet look,
noir.
right?
A lot of wetted streets.
Yeah. Yeah, because now when I think about it, it's sort of like the characters in the John Wick movies, they are very black and white, right? And then you kind of add these like dabs of really bright colors, the neon, right? Because I watched John Wick 4 pretty recently, right? And the Continental in Osaka is just like everyone is just like very toned down, but then the backgrounds and like all those things are just so brightly colored and sparkly. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it also makes the movies like really fun to watch on any platform. Like they're really popular to watch on like cable and on airplanes. Like I always hear people watching John Wick on the airplane.
Yeah.
And I guess like even when you light something that bright, you get the color to like even work on that small little screen. Whereas you watch an older action movie, it's not going to look good on a small screen.
No, definitely no. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thanks for that description, Tim. And
it's probably wrong, but
yeah,
I tried.
Yeah. But I mean, we got some nice insight there on the director as well. That was a pretty impressive kind of storyline to go from a stuntman to a director. But I mean, that totally shows, right? Because the stunts in John Wick, they're so unique. The style is so unique. You will see things that you haven't seen in a movie before, basically, when it comes with all the fighting scenes and the gun stunts, and you basically learn that John Wick he's not a regular person. The amount of damage and hits he takes, right?
He gets hurt a lot.
He's getting hurt a lot.
It's 40 minutes of movie footage.
Yeah, in the
franchise?
pinball machine, that is the number. 40 minutes of footage from the 4 movies.
And then we had a question in the chat from Abe Flip saying, are the movie clips censored? So like the most brutal scenes aren't shown. I imagine you guys have to kind of, with the licensure, curate what's going to be seen. But
yeah, I mean, we had a back and forth process on like what we could show and what we couldn't, and that's as far as like what we want to show in the game. So there's my expertise on like what would translate well to pinball. Well, that's the high action violence stuff, right? Like that's the stuff that you hit a shot, and pinball is so fast and chaotic, and we know this, so then like it matches that energy. So then I presented to them like I wanted to use all the action films, and they're like, well, what about all the other like nice stuff? I'm like, yeah, I want action.
Too slow.
But
yeah, for sure.
There are some up close scenes. There was a scene. There's a part of the film that's censored in Australia and New Zealand in John Wick 3, where John Wick puts a knife through someone's eyeball. And reading that it was censored in another country, I was like, okay, maybe I'll avoid that scene. So some stuff I was like, that may not be
Good
the
choice.
best idea, just as far as like avoiding any legal issues.
Yeah, getting
sure.
export restrictions to Australia because of that one scene, that would have been a bit dumb.
Yeah.
Just stick with the putting knives through hands. I think that's that's a good one.
Well, that's not from footage. That's actually one of our artists made that scene, which was pretty cool.
Oh, okay, but it is a scene in.
He modeled it. He made the room in 3D, and he
Oh.
created a hand in 3D to be stabbed. That's Patrick O'Connor, one of our artists in our team, who's just amazing. He also made all the intros for the car multi-balls with the
seen
car George designed. He put all that together. So he like looked at scenes from the movie and recreated those sets and then added our car into it.
That's
Yeah.
so good. And the ending of the game with the pinball, like slamming the
Yeah.
pinball down.
Yep, he does
It's
that one
so
too.
beautiful. Oh my god.
Yeah, that is one.
I was like,
one
is
thing-
that in the movie?
Yeah. There's a pinball in the movie.
Seamless. Seamless. Well, there was sort of a pinball in Mandalorian, right? Grogu.
Yeah, there was kind of.
Kind of ish.
It was
Well,
a
it's done very
sphere. Yeah, but that's one thing to make note of John Wick, the pinball machine, like how cohesive everything looks, right? Because I noticed those like car scenes almost immediately. It's just like, oh wow, that looked really good. That can't be from the movie, right? Because it kind of looked a little bit sharper, whatever. But then I watched John Wick 4 recently, and I saw that kind of burnout, kind of have the same kind of lighting setting as it had in Paris, right? But it's kind of renders. It looks really good, and it comes really good together with like the UI on the LCD and all the color schemes of the playfield and such. So it's a really nice cohesive package.
Yeah, we
For
probably had
sure.
somewhere between 8 and 10 artists who just worked on the LCD part of the game.
Oh wow, yeah.
So
Well,
there's people who do the parts for the UI, the people who do the 3D graphics, people who do 2D graphics. So there's a lot of people on that team.
Yeah, that explains it, because it looks like it's like very very polished, right? And I mean, I don't know how early code wise we are, right? But at the end of the day, it looks really good and cohesive. So let's just flip the conversation here over to talk a little bit more about the play field. So I just want to kind of get under Elliot's skin here a little bit first, kind of to set the stage for the audience, right? So if you would name your top like 3 to 5 games, like any category, and we kind of want to see if we can sniff out some
pressure.
inspiration.
Hard
here.
body.
Yeah, not you, Emoto, Elliot.
Oh, sorry.
So I'll name all the games that I worked on. Okay.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. Good one.
Ooh, this is a tough question, because I like a lot of games for different reasons. I always go back to Deadpool. I play that game a lot. It's a lot of fun just to play.
Okay.
Just
that's
pick
the,
up any time, and
That's the left ramp.
just-
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Let's see, another game I love to play. I love Medieval Madness. I mean, that's everyone's favorite game too.
Yeah.
It's just
sure.
it's just a fun one to play. I really love Creature. That's one of those games that I found on the wild, and I just started playing it a bunch, and I really liked it.
Oh yeah,
So-
I can see that. Like the movie shot there is like the scoop on the both sides. So yeah, we can see it. Yeah. Perfect.
See the inspirations. Though.
Yeah. We see the inspirations now clearly. Yeah, that's awesome. So, so since this is your first kind of own game, like, so what is the longest idea that you kind of had in your head while this project was ongoing that kind of made it into the game? Is this something you had like that you really want to? Oh, I want to on my first game. This thing has to be in it, sort of thing.
Not as I don't really have a thing that I was like, I want to have this be in the game. It's more just I wanted to be inspired by the movies and the franchise itself, and then kind of take the knowledge that you kind of acquire by working here for so long, and just having mechanical background just to say, okay, well, what can we do that is very specific to this film franchise and then pull it off and then make it really cool on the playfield. So that was kind of how I approached the game originally. And just like trying just all sorts of stuff. I mean, the first Whitewood I made was terrible, and we pretty much threw it out, only kept the left side of it. So really the scoop and the left orbit entrance was the only thing we kept from that. The rest was all different. So you always try something and then inevitably doesn't work. And you're like, well, I can either iterate on that or just try something else. So you just go through that process, and, you end up with what you end up. I think to me, it turned out pretty decent.
Absolutely, I would say it's more than decent. So what's your process in terms of designing the Pro and the Premium? Did you kind of start with the Premium, or did you start with the Pro, or it's sort of like how does that work? Because you're sort of like affected by the fact that how like the mechs work and the cost of manufacturing and all that good stuff, right?
So like the way I've seen it run several different ways. The way I wanted to approach it was do the Premium LE playfield first, but have an idea of what the Pro is in tandem. So like you try to you're working on the mechs and the whole layout as a whole. Okay, this is the package. The Premium LE package is what we want. And then you just say, okay, well, let's think about what we can potentially, edit or take down or anything like that to kind of make also a fun Pro and not try to steal the identity. Let's like take out all its cool parts, because you just don't want to like gut it and be like, okay, this is what you're left with. But you want to like say, okay, we'll keep all the cool stuff that we found here in the Pro and then try to edit as much as possible just to get it down to what a Pro needs to be. And then the way I like to approach the Pro versus Premium is mainly the street game. So it's try to keep it as simple as possible mechanically, but still have all the fun stuff. And then make it easy for operators to work on and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of more of a, as much as, because you want to have as many moving parts in there as possible, but also it's like more moving parts means more things that could potentially go wrong, more downtime and all that sort of stuff. So I was trying to keep that in mind when I was going through all these different mechs and doing those edits.
Understood. Well, one thing that is kind of quite unique with this game, if we kind of compare it to other kind of Pro and Premiums, is the car, right? Because the car behaves like very differently between these two different editions. And I'm just curious how that idea came around, right? Because on the Premium and LE, the car kind of like swings out, and on the Pro, it kind of like it bashes back like a kickback.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know you had some models that you wanted to screen share. I don't know if this is kind of a good segue to that, to kind of show.
Yeah, we can transition to that if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
then I can explain kind of the concept and the inspiration behind all these mechs, and we can go through those. And
let's do that. Also in the a question in the chat. How do you lay out your initial designs, Elliot? Like, is it CAD, visual pinball, napkins? Like when you're the very first idea moments. Like, what do you?
I'm a little bit more old school, where like kind of where I learned to design stuff was in college, and you always start with a sketch. You always start with a pen and paper, and pencil, pencil paper, and you just try to sketch it out. So I usually try to like a scale sort of drawing and just kind of sketching where I think things should go. And like, okay, if I put a ramp here and go around, and then it's easy to iterate and easy to erase and go between different things. And then when I get that, I usually either will take a photograph of it and then just import that into SolidWorks. So I'm very proficient in SolidWorks. That's the CAD program that we use. So I just write in there and then trace right over it for the first initial one. Then you kind of go back and forth and just see what was cool. And then you end up printing it out and resketching over it. And it's kind of the process you go through.
That's awesome. Very cool.
But yeah.
All right, go ahead and
I can share my screen here.
Yep. Cut over.
Okay, it's loading. So I think we can see the screen. Okay, cool.
I
So
can
this
see it in
is
the Zoom call at
Hold
least. I
on.
don't know.
Wait. Hold
It's
on.
not on the
wait.
stream yet.
okay.
Yeah, 1 minute. 1 second.
I need. How did that happen? I'm gonna have to re-add. We're gonna go for 2 10s. Sorry, y'all. Let's fix this real quick. Little live editing. Did you say how many different revisions you did for John Wick?
So like for playfield layouts,
Yeah.
so there is we did at least 3 to 4 whitewoods. There's one in the middle that kind of counts as one, but it was a kind of hybrid. And then in between that, all of my soft edits, I think I went through like 32 different versions that I would save and then, resketch over, keep elements from something, just, yeah, I have them all in a big sketch tree.
Very cool. All right. We're looking at it.
Okay, cool. So if everyone can see this, so this is our environment we work with. We work with SolidWorks for people that have never seen this before, but we do all of the modeling for the engineering at the end in this package, and we do a full like 3D model of everything just so we can see how everything works and everything goes together. So as detailed as the screws on the playfield and everything. So this is our environment. I will go through this car here. We'll go through that first. So I have it preloaded. So yeah, this is the car. This is the mechanism we were talking about. So initially I was inspired by that scene from John Wick 1 where the camera is kind of very stationary and then the car slides into it and then it goes up to his face, Keanu Reeves' face. And it was such a cool scene. So I wanted to lay out that sort of action in how it worked. So the initial concept was, okay, well, if I have just from my experience, I know if I can go and do like a linear slider, then I have a follower pin that'll essentially rotate the car outwards. Let's go to, it's already there. So then when it rotates, it'll rotate outward and do this sliding motion.
Nice.
So I laid out that track. We all start just basically a sketch on 2D plane and how that works. And so that's where that came from. And so that was the whole start of the whole thing. And then I knew I wanted it to be as fast as possible. So we went through several iterations of this drive system. We did a screw drive, a stepper motor, kind of all sorts of things to figure out how the best way to do this would be. We ended up in this what they call slider crank. So this is a crank arm here that slides this big block, which then slides this pin forward, which then slides this other pin along this track, which creates the motion in the end. So it's a very complicated sort of mech that actually provides this motion. And then another thing that I wanted on this was to, as much as possible, to hide the mech so it didn't give you the illusion of what it was going to do until it did it. So I think that's one of the cool things that we do is in certain areas, you try to hide what it is doing. And you try to let the toy be the toy. Sometimes it's cool to see the mechanism, but sometimes it's cool just to let the thing work. So that was the whole thing about hiding the track underneath the car and just in the end getting a sliding motion. So you can see it's all contained in the mech. It slides out and it doesn't even need a playfield there to actually work. But yeah, that was the big development on that one.
So how much of this mech could you reuse for the Pro?
So basically this entire top half, so like if you look at where this plane is here, this black piece up is roughly the same between the Pro and the Premium LE. So this whole bottom side, because I knew that's one of the things that I wanted to take out was the whole big fast action motor driven sort of motion just for the operator, because let's make it slightly different. And I know how expensive this was, so I'm like, well, let's just go to a coil. So I'll pull up the Pro version right here.
How do you know if you hit it? Like when you hit it?
So you can see the Pro version is the whole bottom side is different, but the top side is roughly the same. So I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be in the same spot. Let's just pull it forward with a coil. Change my
So
configuration.
do you have optos on the premium that kind of detects the motion, or where is that registering?
Yes. So I'll go back to that one, but I'll show you the Pro motion, and then we can go back to that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, just really, I knew I wanted to pull it forward with a coil, and then just because of where it was in the playfield, I was going to run into something over here. So I'm like, well, let's just do a little hook turn, and then in the end, it does a little hook. So it does really the same thing. And you can see how stable sometimes these SolidWorks packages are. So it does a little. It just follows this track in here, and it does a little hook. So that kind of creates some interesting motions because
cool.
it's not firing right back at you. Depending on where you hit it, it'll actually either fire to the right or right back at you. It's kind of a little random. That was totally unintentional. I didn't know that was going to happen until we fired it up for the first time. Like, well, this is actually pretty fun. This is really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a pinball moment when you hit that the first time.
Yeah.
Because I played a game before. I had watched the pro stream, as you mentioned before, right? And I was just like, what happened there? And just the car just like launched at me, and he's just like, what?
Right. Yeah, it is a little bit like shocking the first time. You're like, wow, this is really cool. I'm like, oh, I hit it and it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to your question. So there's this sensor board down here, which is actually a magnetic sensor. So as you see these two little black dots, those are which sense the magnetic fields in this magnet right here. And so that's what tells the system that it's in a specific position. So it'll go until it hits this position here, and then it knows, oh, I'm at the end. And then it'll rotate back, and then, oh, I'm back at this position. So that's how it knows whether it's frontwards or backwards, or extended or home.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I think Harrison.
And then for hit detection, there's even more
Yeah.
optos on the playfield.
Yeah, so that's just to make the actual motion work, and then to actually make it fun and dynamic for the player, we can go back to the playfield. So we went through a lot of iterations on how this actually works. So internally here, it has sense of ball. So we started with putting the sensor inside it, and it just ended up being a little bit of a nightmare for cable management. We were just afraid of, breaking cables and all that. So we tried to get away from that. So we ended up having 3 sets of optos around the car. So there's one here in the back. You can kind of see it right here. That the car actually moves back and forth on a spring. So there's an internal slider inside the car that when the ball hits it, it pushes it back, and it actually registers this switch. And then there's an opto on the front here. We can kind of follow my mouse. I don't know if you can see that, but
we can see it.
Okay, so right here, this is the front opto. So this is when the car is extended, the ball can actually sense that. And then there's one back here as well. So then when the car is out, it can sense that the ball's sitting right back here. So there's all sorts of sensors to make this thing work and feel like it is, interacting with the ball directly.
So does that work as a ball lock or trap during gameplay as well, or when the car is extended?
It's a pseudo ball lock.
Yeah, okay.
Because like when the car's back in that position, the opto's blocked. So we didn't want to completely use it like, oh, it's a ball lock switch, because there's just a lot of overhead to be like, well, how do I know if a car's in it or a ball's in it? But there's moments in the game where we hide the ball behind it, or we catch the ball behind it if the ball isn't hit too fast. I mean, we try to. Yeah. And then you could bash the car with the ball behind it, or you could do other stuff with it. So it gave us the option for presentation to be like a hold when we start a multi-ball, which was really cool for the car multi-balls on the premium. And I forget that people haven't really seen much of the premium in LE yet, because the pros are out on location now. So that is a bonus. You get those extra states of the car. They move during multi-ball for different shots. And you can also go around the orbit and shoot the car from behind too.
Yes, I like this orbit.
Yeah. So it gives you you can really get 2 new ways to hit it, from the side and then from the left orbit. And then there's also the plunge behind it. There's a skill shot just on the premium for the car. And people have asked if that's going to be on the pro, but we don't have a switch there on the pro. So it's not, it's not going to be on the pro.
Yeah, there's no
It's just one of those
there.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pro, it just has that orbit switch, which is just for the orbit, but it might not, the ball might not hit it. So with the car switch, we actually use that to tell if the car caught the ball for the skill shot.
That is
Understood.
correct. So yeah, that's the that was the main toy. So that's one of the first toys that we started with conceptually, because we identified that John Wick uses cars and vehicles in every one of the movies he's in. He uses a weapon, all sorts of things. So like let's make that a center toy. So then yeah, that's where that first toy came from. Then the second toy was this crate. So this one was I think one of my favorite ones too. I mean, the car was really fun, but this one was kind of cool for a technical reason. Open this guy up. So my concept for this one was I wanted to make sure it looked as good as possible and try to be as close to the movie as possible, because there's that, I love that scene too where he's getting back into it, he's bashing the concrete down there and trying to exposing this weapons cache that he's got stored. It just kind of exposes the whole world. So that was kind of the theme behind this whole thing. I wanted to make it so it's just a big target, so that the players you would hit it and it wouldn't matter necessarily how you had to hit it, like you hit it hard or soft or from the edge, and then it would open up and then reveal the shot, and then now you're starting all the jobs and you're in that world now. So I'll do a cross section of this. I know it was brought up in the when we were first talking about it, of how this thing kind of works.
Wow, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, so I really wanted it to be hidden as much as possible. Again, going back to that theme of let the toys be the toys, and you just interact them, and you don't really, have to see what's going on inside. But what's going on inside is pretty cool. So basically, there's these custom-made pins that seat into these cones, and they create tension with these springs so that it sticks outward, so that when you hit it with a ball, it'll rotate about one of those 2 points, triggering one of these 2 switches. So you can hit it from literally any side of anywhere along the front face, and it'll trigger a switch. So that's what I was hoping for, and it turned out pretty decent. Went through again several iterations of just 3D prints and switches to get the sensor to feel right and to be not too stiff, but not too weak as well. You didn't want just a gimme switch. You don't want to have the playfield rumble, and then all of a sudden it triggers the switch. So you can kind of see a little bit more clearly. But yeah, so it's just 2 micro switches with these custom made pins, and then the sculpts all attached to there and create your magic internally.
Awesome.
Wow. It's like one of those thumb locks, right? It looked like really That's awesome.
And then just a simple coil pull to open it up with a nice pivot point. So again, I wanted it to not look like there was a bunch of switches in here when you opened it up, just like, oh look, it's a crate lid. It opens right up. So
it's also cool that Elliot managed to get all that going with just 2 switches and a coil.
Yeah,
it's a very complex mech, and I was definitely doubting that he could pull it off, but he surprised me. It was it had to do so much in such a small area.
So one thing that I'm kind of curious about the mech itself here, I can kind of see from a manufacturing, when you install the mech, that you kind of need that piece of plastic there, because something I noticed when I played the game initially was that the ball just gets a completely different friction when it rolls from the playfield over to that plastic, right? If the ball has spin, it just grips immediately, and it's just all crazy. So but it doesn't really do anything besides just creating that distance between the lower plate and the crate, I guess.
Yeah, so it's mainly just to make the manufacturability easier. Yeah. So it's easier for the production line to then just fit this straight to the bottom of the playfield, and then it's got its own leveling sort of device there. So then you level this plate to the playfield, and so it's easy for them just to put it on and then level it later. So that's why it's got a insert. Otherwise, you'd have to kind of snake it around, and then you'd have to then level it on the mech itself, which then it becomes a lot more complicated, and then
Okay.
just really points for potential failure down the line.
Understood. So end users and operators, they can kind of level the plastic underneath there somehow. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So these
Okay.
four nuts, all you do is you tighten them to raise it, and then loosen them to lower it.
That's so
Oh,
great.
Yep. And
That's
it's got
so great.
these compression O-rings then that kind of take up that gap.
oh
We've
wow.
done this trick a lot on other mechs that need to level to the playfield surfaces.
Yeah. I see what you're saying now. Yeah. So it
Mhm.
is basically the bottom plate there, or like the middle plate. That's kind of what you're adjusting, and that kind of
Yes.
moves the entire thing. Yeah. It makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
In
Yeah.
reference to the actual game, you can see this playfield here is attached to the playfield itself with 6 screws, and then
Mhm.
this one here is the one that's floating. So that's where
Yeah.
that compression rubber is taking up the gap.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You can just adjust it to like whatever
Yep,
what over time quite easily with those 4 nuts. Yeah.
that is correct.
That's
And then, so that since we went to the pro version of the crate, we can go quickly over to the pro version of the crate here. So this is the pro model. Again, we make
Yeah.
another a model for the pro as well, just to see all the different clearances there. So I know I wanted to dumb that down slightly to, again, less moving parts, less things to replace. So I was like, well, let's just do a big target. And then you have the same sort of effect as the premium LE crate, but it is changes your gameplay dramatically because now the switch is so far over, and then this whole shot is always exposed. So it does change that gameplay, which I thought was kind of cool when we started to play around with it. Like, oh, this is actually pretty fun, and I like kind of both the versions differently because of the way you interact with the toys.
Mm.
But that one is just more of a simple target with a couple flashers and the similar
Nice.
crate plastic and the leveling system and all that jazz.
Yeah. Another toy that's on the premium LE, I haven't played it yet, but it looks so satisfying, and that is the lock mech in the back there
Yes.
with the diverter. That is peak pinball for me. Like talk through this.
Yeah, so I've done some diverters before. I've one of my favorite ones to design was the Rush diverter, inspired by Radical. Oh, that was one of my favorite
Yeah.
ones.
There you go.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, we got one of those here.
but
Sweet.
yeah, so I knew I wanted to do a diverter into a ball lock. Just I guess if you want to talk back to things that I wanted to do originally, that was just one of the things that I also wanted to bring in. I like physical ball locks. I like seeing the ball there,
Oh, we're
and then
friends
having
here.
the moment where they come out, and it's just all exciting. So
Yeah,
I
for
knew that
sure.
was going to be a thing. Wanted to put it on a center ramp so that it was a little bit more easily accessible and not be hidden off to the side or something. So came up with this diverter concept in this back trough that then fed this pop pumper area.
Yeah.
So
And
it's just a coil pull.
it's all metal. Like this whole
Yes.
thing is all metal.
Yeah, it's a big welded metal arm that actually peeks through both sides of the ramp so that it creates a really smooth transition when you're going around this path. And then when it opens up, you actually then go through the center of the path and go around into this trough back here.
Mm.
And then that feeds that lock.
And I think I saw on the promo videos, I don't know, I can't remember if I've seen it, so you can you control the drop of the balls in there as well. You don't drop all 3 at the same time, right? Or
No, when the multi-ball, so you need to lock 3 balls when the multi-ball starts, they drop one at a time.
okay,
So
yeah.
they get a chance to then gain some action back here.
That's
I don't
awesome.
know. Yeah.
So do you have like do you have optos for every ball position
Yes.
there then? Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so there's a custom board here that has 3 optos. You can see the 3 holes peeking out, so that we know that there's 3 balls locked in here.
Sweet.
and
And
then just
there's
a simple
another.
downpost.
Yeah, yeah. There's another toy on the Premium Ellie that's like the marker
Hmm.
thing there.
So this one was a lot of fun to work on. I'll pull it up individually. It's this one.
The
Yeah,
blood
I got
oath
it.
marker.
Yeah, so this
Yeah,
was
that's what
really
it is.
cool
Yeah.
because we actually got this 3D scan from an actual movie prop. So we got this in from um, the licensor, and then we actually took it to a 3D scanning company. They were gracious enough to let us do that. And so then when I actually started with this, I'll roll this model back. This is the actual 3D scan of that movie prop, which was pretty cool. And then I was able to like then cut it up and then make the actual mech you see.
And then in the movie, they use multiple props for when it's
Mhm.
open and when it's closed. So we got the closed one. So Elliot had
Yes.
to kind of make that action work on this.
Yeah. So that was part of the challenge, was to actually make this thing, well, one, make it look good when it's closed, and then also make it open up, and then not look weird when it's open. So those were my two goals: was to make it look good when it was closed, and then look good when it was open, and then
Sounds
hide.
reasonable.
Yeah, hide most of the mechanism as possible. So came up with this concept of putting a coil right behind it and doing this, linkage system then to open it up. So then it just, coil pull will open up the door, and it's all built into the sculpt where the pivot pin is and everything like that. And then trying to hide the PCB to illuminate the thumbprint so that we can make it look good when it's closed again, and then, or when it's not lit, and then when it is lit. So
Yeah, that's a really nice little playfield prop for sure.
yeah,
That is
it turned
cool.
out much cleaner than I thought it would. I was doubting myself that I could pull this one off. But it
Is
was like,
there
oh,
actual thumbprint on the blood oath marker in the game?
no, we went with a stylized thumbprint so that we could, one, read it better on the insert on the playfield, and then also you could read it better when you were this was open. So there's really no actual bloody thumbprints.
Fair.
Sweet, sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is there any other things on the playfield you kind of want to showcase while we got SolidWorks up here?
Yeah, let me go back to the model here. One of the other things that I wanted to highlight that we haven't talked about yet was this nice big Continental building.
Yeah.
So this was in a lot of my early concepts. I know I wanted to feature the Continental. I'm gonna try to pull the car back here if it cooperates with me. Yeah, I wanted to feature the Continental as kind of a bigger showpiece. So we did a lot of iterations on playing with the size, shape, height of this to make it, one, feel like it was a big presence, but not feel like it was dominating the game. Because I think initially I drew it and I was going to have it, so you could shoot a ball in there and it'd be this scoop system, and the scale of it ended up being so large that it was just like we're playing the Continental game and not a John Wick game. So,
Gotcha.
and I wanted to also make it feel like it was actually part of the playfield and not just this like toy floating above a scoop or something like that, to make it feel more authentic. So I kind of pulled it out of the big sheet metal piece here that kind of wraps around and is essentially the ball guide, the inner ball guide of the game. And then the sculpt is just pulled right out of that. And then all of these windows are knocked out. So then when it lights up, it shows really nice in the windows. And then I wanted to have some of the architectural detail of the building with all the ledges and rooftop be incorporated in there. So that's how that got developed. And the other thing is I had to have an awning because I knew that was what distinguished the building to be the Continental.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's
Looks really
beautiful.
So
Thank
is,
you.
is there like a regular Newton ball, or is there a ball kind of inside the Continental?
Yes.
That hits.
I'll do a cross section. So yeah, there is a
Whoa.
There is
Oh, yeah.
a ball right in there with the target behind there, and this is something that actually I laid it out first, and then Tim showed me that it was too close, and we're gonna get it hit so many times and debounce, so I had to put a lot further. So that's why it's so far
Nice.
back, was to, if we hit it, we knew we wanted to hit it in a hard shot, not a soft shot. It was part of that development we did.
That's awesome. It's just
Yeah.
like things that you don't see on a pinball machine. And
Right.
it's right there on the playfield. That's so
Mhm.
cool.
This
There's
is
a
some
lot
the
of
fun-
stories of Elliot does something and then I tell him why he has to redo it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I get the game and start putting code to it, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, Elliot,
Yeah. Yeah.
back to the drawing board.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So is that like a known distance for a Newton ball shot that you need to have a
No,
The
you have to
particular
play a
travel?
pinball machine. You just got to feel it because it has to come down to how strong the flippers are and where are you shooting, what
Right.
flipper is going to shoot there and what power it has. And just it could have been fine, but it turned out that those forehands from the left flipper hitting the captive ball, which is the main shot on that ball, would just cause the
right.
ball to bounce, hit the target, and the targets are pretty bouncy, hit the ball again, and then bounce off that.
Hmm.
And you'd get 2 or 3 hits every time, and you spell like Winston immediately.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That doesn't. That's
That'd
not
be great.
fun.
So you're saying I can put another ball in there to kind of get more hits?
Oh my god.
I know, that would probably make it.
That's
I don't know what that would do.
Yeah. I'll
It'd probably make it
figure
really heavy. So
funny.
that might
Yeah.
not work.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it might not bounce as much. But if you put
Yeah.
two power balls, that would kind of create.
Oh. I mean, I'll leave that up to you to experiment with.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Or just one power ball might create more bounce. Who knows? Yeah. This is fun. Pinball is fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to show mechanically, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to see.
Yeah, is there any questions in chat? I'm not monitoring chat. Emoto, do you have a
Yeah.
question about
I mean,
the playfield?
everyone's just saying how amazing it is, and just commenting. Not so much questions, just being like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that's really cool."
Yeah, it is always impressive to see some of the level of detail these things get to, because we need to make sure everything is where it should be before we manufacture it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing the SolidWorks and being able to go all inside of it is just super exciting
Yeah,
for us
that's part
too,
of
as
those-
fans, 'cause it's beautiful.
Part of those tools that help us develop.
Yeah, it looks easy enough. Anyone can develop a pinball
Oh, yeah.
machine, just using SolidWorks, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh, that-
creating these 3D ramp models are a work of art, we'll just say.
Yeah. Yeah, so on the wire forums there, just a general comment from me. I'm just like so stoked by all the metal in this game.
Yeah.
It's just like it's the best, right? It's just there's not a single plastic ramp or ramp return or anything. It's just metal everywhere, and I'm kind of seeing that generally from Stern now, that it's more metal in the games. Is that just like a is that the direction you're going in general? That might be a George Gomez question. I don't know.
I think it depends. I mean, for me, it depends. I can answer as how I think to answer it. It depends on what you're going for a shot. So if there's certain things you just can't do with sheet metal, they can only bend essentially one way. So you can only have one transition. So if you're doing something like a complicated sweep, where you're doing, look, I want to enter here on a third flipper shot and then twist and do all this weird stuff. Yeah, you have to go to plastic. It's just you can't get away with it in metal. So you either lay out a game with metal in mind and say, okay, I can only have one transition, one turn, and all that sort of stuff. So there's been a lot of people that like to do that currently. So that's kind of our trend. Not to say that the plastic won't come back, because there might be some other crazy concepts that come in. But that's generally from what I've experienced, is the complicated geometry lends itself to plastic. The simple geometry lends itself to metal. And for me, I knew I wanted this game to be as fast as I could. So metal's usually faster. So all metal ramps just made sense.
Yeah. You get maximum kinetic
Nice, yeah.
satisfaction
I like the
every
fact.
single shot here. So That's beautiful. Yeah, so I think we should switch over to Tim
Yeah.
a little bit, because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are dying to learn a little bit more about the software and some of the unique features that are in this game in general, right? So let's yeah, we talked a little bit about the film content. That was basically my first question there, but we already know now that you got 40 minutes of content. Was that correct, Tim?
Yeah, from 4 movies, and we started the project before John Wick 4 was released. So the folks over at Lionsgate invited us to be part of a special group of people who got to see the 4th film
Oh,
early,
that's awesome. Very
because we had given them like our early concepts, and I had some ideas that were in the game, and we didn't know where the 4th movie was going. And I had really been studying like the trailer and the characters and trying to figure out what was happening. There were really interesting things there with, they said, oh, good news, we've got Rina Sawayama for you to join as the Akira character. We had no idea what her role was. Is she going to be like a villain? And she kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
is this, she helps John, but reluctantly.
Yeah.
She's an unwilling ally of John's, and she's a warrior, really, in the films, who fights on John's side to defend the Osaka Continental. And that was a really cool role. It was also her debut film role, so I didn't even have anything of like, what kind of characters does she play? She doesn't. She's a musician out of the UK.
Oh, wow.
And one of the funniest things about that time period was, we're like, all right, we're going to have a Continental on the game. And they were like, we're like, what? Continental's been all the movies. What are you saying? Well, we can't tell you what happens to the Continental, but maybe we can. And then we had to, get permission to see the film early, and it was all top security stuff of like how we could even watch it. But then from there, we learned a lot of stuff about John Wick 4, stuff that kind of informed where the game went today. Things like having the factions, right? The 7 factions, adding the factions of the Osaka Continental and the Marquis, right? And the High Table is their own faction that has like an independent agenda. That came out of that. Adding the wizard mode concepts, which aren't in the game yet, but the idea of like the endless staircase, right?
Yeah.
From John Wick 4, and we're like, oh, that's perfect for pinball, because like that's an endless wave mode from arcade games. That really translates well to pinball.
Oh yeah.
The duel, like the John Wick 4, there are so many card games. There's the poker game, which is rigged, which, a lot of games have had poker. Poker's been a big part of pinball themes. Like the rules of it go well. But then there's also the high table duel starts with the card game. And that had its own, you could pick certain characteristics. So that's our so-called wizard mode. Is we're going to have like a selection phase where you have unrevealed cards in front of you, and how you pick them determines how the mode will play out.
Oh my god.
For the dual wizard mode.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then the final idea, the special assignment, that came from like researching John Wick. The idea of like John Wick, he starts and he's retired. And how did he retire from this world? Well, he did like some impossible task. That's how Vigo describes it. Like, he did something no one could have done, and he got out of it. So we're going to come up with like a really difficult mission with a bunch of phases. That's like, if you can succeed, that's your special assignment to get out of the John Wick world. But then, as we know with John Wick, he always just goes back into pinball. Maybe that ties in the pinball story a bit. Gotcha. You're always in pinball. It's like you're always in the world in John Wick. You're always in pinball.
So we have a question in the chat, and I know like the generic answer is play better. But this one resonates to me because I'm a mid player too. D. Kaiser was asking, would you ever consider letting us have an option to carry over job and adversary progression on the ones we do complete versus draining or timing out? Just because the amount of jobs and adversaries are so many for novice players like us to actually get to the wizard mode. So anything to help the noobs out? Or strategy?
I'll let you in on a secret, okay? Exclusive for the Marco Pinball stream.
Yay!
Sometimes when we only have so much time, we have a certain amount of time before the game's released, and then we have time after the game's released. And Stern in general, we do a very good job, an excellent job of supporting our games post-launch. We come out with, like a dozen plus free updates. I think last year we came out with almost 100 software updates for all Spike 2 games.
That was epic.
And our big software team, is constantly working on stuff. But here's a secret. Sometimes we make the game hard at the beginning, and then we make little things to make it easier, add a couple warp pipes in there, add some stuff so that as there's more content in the back of the game, and it makes it a little easier to get to those. So if you haven't been around for like a code journey is what people call it now, because like the game evolves and you get the ideas, and then it turns into something that's more fun with every update. And that's because of the work we do. As we move on in the game and we have stuff cooler later in the game, like those wizard modes, we make it easier to get to those wizard modes, and we do stuff like that to pace.
So there's
the
still
game
hope for us.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I can't wait to see the first official warp pipe in a pinball machine.
If you've
Everybody
played
knows what that
I want to
is.
go up to the top, and I want to run across the entire map and then drop down.
The ultimate warp pipe we've added recently is challenge modes, where you could just jump and play the wizard modes.
That is cool.
That created a change where two things happened. One, our wizard modes got a lot bigger, and like our wizard modes became kind of games of their own. But then two, like we gave people reasons to just like you can play a wizard mode as a game, and gave them new experiences. So that was a cool thing that came out of that.
Yeah.
Wizard modes before challenge modes were pretty much, if you've ever played like a Spider-Man wizard mode and it's like shoot Sandman 25 times in a row, they're cool that you got there, but they're not that special on their own. With some of the wizard modes we've done lately, they're cool standalone games. So if you ever get the chance on a game, hold both flippers in and then flip to the challenge mode menu on some of our existing games and just try to play those at a location, you might notice that like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Could you,
So
by
you're bringing
chance,
back
off the top of your head, name which titles you have that holding down both flippers?
It's all the Spike 2 games now. There is a menu, but every challenge mode, I mean, there's probably at least 10
Like I know
games with
Turtles
challenge
has
modes.
it. Yeah, I know Jaws has it. Wow.
Well, you got to
Jurassic
think
Park.
Black Knight,
Spike 2 games?
Deadpool,
Wow.
like probably all the games since 2018. Maiden might have it at this point. So, yeah.
I believe
Yeah,
Ghostbusters
Go
even
play
has
the
it.
challenge modes, y'all. That's awesome.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to bring back the super game button, if you all remember that.
Oh, the tournament button?
No, it's on.
It was like a
What is it?
timed game Williams did.
Oh.
Yeah, so on Judge
gotcha.
Dredd, you can basically play the game in
Oh.
two different modes. So you have normal game and a super
Funny.
game, and the super game had a dedicated button, and then you kind of start the game in multi-ball, but and it doesn't really it does not have much to do with the normal game, so to speak.
The cool thing now is we have Insider connected so that people know, at this point, people know that those games get supported, and then there's new types of ways to play. Like quests, people have seen monthly quests and monthly leaderboards. There's all sorts of new features that are added in like this extra layer that don't require having an extra button on the game.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
Awesome.
So let's Stern Insider connected there. So you're introducing something called contracts to.
Yeah,
John
those are
Wick
coming
and-
soon.
Yeah.
So contracts are going to be a new type of, they're similar to quests, but they're new because they actually require players to play a specific game and complete specific game objectives. So in the case of John Wick, contracts haven't been announced yet, but let's just say one of them is like, overall your game score 50 million in deconsecrated multi-ball. So that gives you a specific objective that's John Wick, personalized to do. And that's cool on its own, but then also we're adding a component that's inspired by the movie, the race to the top, the race to get the contract, be the first to fulfill it. So there's actually limited chances to claim a contract. Like, maybe the first 2,000 people to get something will get it. Maybe it's the
Wow.
first 10, maybe it's the first one, right? Like we can play around with that And that's a really cool feature. And then we're also adding notifications, which will be coming soon on your Insider app. So then they can let you know, hey, this contract's coming. And
Oh,
if you're
gosh.
going to hunt those rare badges, because they are going to be rare badges that like only a certain amount of people can get, then you're going to want to turn those on.
That's so huge for location owners and operators. Like, I'm like, my eyes are watering because I just know the people at my arcade, like, especially my dad, as soon as he gets that contract notification, like, he's gonna drop everything to get to the arcade to race everyone else to get those in. Like, it's perfect, y'all. Like, you really tapped into it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
Yeah.
funny. It's gonna
There's a
be
lot of
fun
work
to
to get that
watch.
stuff to happen. There's a big team
Sure.
now behind
Yeah.
Insider, and I mean that's pretty new for a business like Stern to add internet connectivity. Like that was a big change for our business, and the demand for it has been incredible. Like I think we kind of knew that we had to get the games online. I know George definitely had plans for this for a long, long time to build out a platform like this, but the way people have gravitated to it is really awesome, and it like makes us feel like we can really change your game experience with that game already being out there, and it doesn't require you going into the menu and doing X, Y, and Z, or like doing all this stuff. It's like, no, we could just put some information out for people, and then hey, there's a new way to play, and that's what people like.
Absolutely. It's so successful in watching it. Like the March Madness thing where all the states were battling. That was freaking huge. And then last month with the Jaws collection for 20 billion, like
That's
every single
crazy.
day we had people come in. They're like, I gotta at least get 10 million or whatever, 100
Yeah.
million points today to be able to make it. Like they're tracking their progress to be able to make it to get that badge. Like they're hungry for it. So it's awesome you guys are doing that.
Yeah,
Very
it's
cool.
great the replay value to kind of like have things that carry over game to game, right? And that's just one of the things I love about Venom, that with the kind of the speed run thing there, it's just so it kind of gives you that, just one more game kind of feeling, right? And that's awesome. So I'm just curious about the contracts there, and this sounds like very much like a verified location only kind of thing, right? Because
I don't know about that. I don't think so. I think we're predicting things, right? Like we're predicting that because quests have been really popular on location, that contracts will be really popular on location. But I don't think it's going to be exclusive to them.
okay,
However, that might not be true in the case of those limited contracts where, only 500 people. Then maybe we want to do those on verified locations. Maybe we'll have verified, there's a lot of possibilities of what we could do with an online platform like that. You really have to respond to the data and iterate on it because you're in a social community.
yeah, for sure. And so when you kind of claim these contracts, like say you take a very exclusive one, will like the leaderboards for that be available, like published in the game, or will that just be visible in the app? Or
It'll be
the
part
website?
of the app and the website.
Okay, gotcha. Because that is kind of one thing that I've been wondering myself. Like, when will we see, like, the global leaderboards and such that locations have? When can we actually see them in the game? Like, if I own a John
Yeah, I
Wick
know what you're talking about.
and I kind of want to see what's the top leaderboard right now, and you can just like kind of flip the buttons and you will see the leaderboards there.
I don't have answers for you on dates, but I know that the amount of feature requests on stuff like that is pretty incredible, and like a big challenge. That a reason we've needed such a big team is that building the architecture to support that kind of stuff of how initially, right, we have achievements and we have a way we can like get achievements to work in the game. But now that achievements works in the game, people are, why can I see other stuff in the game? Well, that takes a whole architecture rebuild. It's a very intense process, and it's changed the company even because we for a while, right, it's like we just had game. We would do stuff in the games, and we'd have our systems team that's shared code between the games. Now we have this insider team that's making this evolving product. So as soon as they make something new, you almost have to retrofit everything to every game. We did that with the Insider Connected kits mechanically, which was a project in itself, but also in the software, you have to retrofit all those menus and stuff into the game something that was just like, you wouldn't believe how complex it was just to get Insider to work was when every game had a unique score frame, right? Like if you think about Star Wars, it has all the scores on the top of the screen and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then other games have like the 4 on the bottom. There was so much iteration to get those, like the icon plus the username or the 3-letter initials. Like we had to build so many different custom ways to show you were logged in for every game because we hadn't really planned that stuff. So it's the like, we do a feature, we have to go backward to support it on all Spike games, and then immediately people want more features, and there's just a lot of moving pieces
We
there.
want it all, and right
And it's like, we want it all too.
Everything
but
on every game, yeah.
It's
I want it on my
now
game.
it's a whole team with Erica From, our chief technology officer, running the whole Stern digital group, and they're in charge of all the IC stuff. Like we've needed to build a whole group at Stern to do that stuff, which is that's how big it is now.
Well, yeah, you had a pretty good cold run with this, I guess, because the John Wick trailer was available on all Stern games the same day the teaser dropped, right? So you
that was so
you-
cool.
Yeah, so you can push content to the games. We already know that. So it's just like, when are the leaderboards coming, right?
Yeah, I mean that one's just like we figured out a way to push the same content to all games, and leaderboard's a new challenge because it's you have to push a specific leaderboard to a specific game, or like if you push like what's this month, I think it's the maiden leaderboards, like you could push we could push an ad for that to all games, but then pushing that specific leaderboard in real time to all games is a whole different challenge, and it's like it's one of the many features that is requested.
Yeah. Mouth-watering features, Mike. We want it. So let's talk a little bit about another cool thing that's available on John Wick is a thing that I like a lot, and it is the possibility for expression lights. If we kind of switch topic here a little bit. So what brought that into the world of John Wick? Because it's only available on a handful of games from Stern.
Yeah, I'll start with my explanation. So, just seeing the films, you just notice the lighting right away, and that's what we talked about. The neon noir and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
But it was a big inspiration for me was just to have as much cool lighting there as possible. And then we already had these expression lights, so it was just like, well, that's a natural. Let's push that to get that on the game. So I really wanted to be that the LE had them pre-installed, and then you could purchase them as for accessories for the premium and pro to enhance your experience there.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So and like all the Tim mentioned something about the light programming is sort of something that one of your developers are working on specifically for John Wick. Is there any specific light shows that you kind of have in store for us with the expression lights, or that we can talk about already?
Yeah, I want to talk about something that's coming soon, and it's something we did with the speaker lights, and I did a demo of it recently at this, I guess they call it the Pinfluencer event. We did a private event at Stern last week, or the week before.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right before Memorial Day.
It was last week. Yeah, it was last week.
Yeah, I'm losing track of time. It was last week. No, it wasn't. It was the Thursday before last week, I think.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It was before Memorial Day. I remember that. So we had that day, literally that day, in the morning, I got code from another developer on my team named Brett, who I had said, Brett, I want to figure out a way where we could do muzzle flash anytime there's gunfire on those round speaker lights. Like, I'd been staring at Wick so much, right? And it's like, it just seems like a natural fit. So I go to him and I go to Bob Baffy, my audio engineer, and I go, you guys figure this out. You guys are engineers. Both of you figured this out. And they did. And that day, Brett's like, I have a system where we can sync up with the video player if we add this new file. And then anytime, if you can give me the frame numbers for all the gunshots he detected it. He detected it with sound. So he did frequency analysis on all the clips in the film. And then he would tweak them by hand get the gunshot frequencies. And when those went off, he wrote code to line up the number. And then Brett had a way to trigger the shaker motor and the speaker lights on it.
Holy
And so
shit.
right now, the LEs that are shipping out don't have that yet, but we just got all the movies done this past week. And for that event, so like I said, the time frame of like 2 Thursdays ago was the first day where the first test went in. And it looks so good that I like got in the morning, got to the Stern, and I just updated the code to like a private beta version we had just for the demonstration to show people like, look how cool this looks. This is awesome.
Rad.
And so that's for the speaker lights. Like that's one aspect of the speaker lights. And of course, also like this is how pinball development works. We look at that, we go, oh, it'd be cool. Then like, well, what do we do when John Wick throws someone into a wall? Like, what we got to do another light show for that, and like maybe we change the shaker motor pattern up and stuff. But the people in person who got to see it, and eventually, like, you will be able to buy speaker light accessory kits and shaker motor kits. Can't give you dates on that. I don't know exactly when, but the LEs will have it. So the LE people who are buying games, there's still LEs available if you want to see this. And that code will be out very soon. The like feel and the lighting flash of that like shaker, like it really feels like that 4D movie kind of experience you get now, where they like shake your
really
sheet
Now
cool.
we're
seat
talking. Yeah, now we're talking.
and give you like a burst of air on your face or something. Like it's our pinball version of that integration.
Yeah. Just for my own sanity here. So you're saying that you can retrofit these speaker lights on Pro and Premiums as well?
Eventually, when there's an
yeah.
accessory kit available, it will
Okay.
be possible.
And
But I don't
alright.
know. I know they're not out yet because Jaws LEs have them and Wix LEs have them, and they have said that they are coming because they're in demand
Yeah.
as an
Yeah.
accessory.
Yeah.
Understood. But they're sort of you don't need the expression lights and the speaker light to get this effect, right? It was
No,
from-
you can get either. You can get both. You can get either one.
All right.
But the specific muzzle flash, that's on the speaker lights because one, they look like circles, and two, they're right next to the screen, so they bring the biggest impact there.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
That's cool.
must
And
have.
with the shaker as well.
Sure.
That's just awesome.
The shaker really helps too. Yeah.
Yeah, you need a shaker.
I'm looking at Matthew.
gotta
Just like,
have the
get a
shaker.
shaker.
Yeah. I know. Oh my gosh, everything shakes.
Yeah, we need to get a shaker. Yeah, it's such a subtle, awesome thing, and you can add to pinball for sure. So that's really nice. That's really nice. Yeah, so we're kind of running a bit short on time here at the moment. So what's the temperature, Emoto? Should we kind of wrap up with some more? The questions I have left here mainly is about gameplay and how you score and stuff like that. And I don't know if there's any questions in the chat that we need to round up as well.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to know like a quick down and dirty how to score high points on this game, which is kind of hard to do initially. Any tips for us, like getting started
I'll give you some tips.
from the masters?
Tip number one is don't sleep on the enemies. So players can shoot into the pop bumper area, or they can plunge into it, or they can get lucky and trickle back into it from a shot around the orbit. But mostly the direct shot up front and then the plunge are the ways to get in there. And that'll help spawn more enemies. All those enemies you defeat are going to go into build the values of your job modes. So if you're just kind of bashing the crate going into the job and then you're getting the scores you get there, you've uncapped scoring, but it depends on how many enemies you defeat during the mode beforehand. So that's a real big trick for, you really want to put up big scores. Those jobs are the answer. But of course, on the other hand, the enemies block the shots in the modes, which is the trade-off there. Is the enemies build your points, but they also block the shots in the mode. That's the unique thing about Wick. And then
So you want to clear all the enemies before you start the job then? Is that
if a shot has enemies on it, you'll need to hit the shot
twice?
more
to
than
get it?
once to collect it. And so there's a little different blinking indication. It's hard to explain, but you'll see it in the lights. Like when the arrow's unrestricted, it's going to give you points, but defeating more enemies, then shooting the arrow, that can be higher scoring.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, so for the audience, like the enemy inserts on all the main shots is like 3 dots, and it could be 1 to 3 enemies per shot. And does one shot clear all the enemies on that shot, or do you have to shoot it like 3 times if there's 3 enemies?
So there's 2 types of enemies. There's armored enemies, which are solid inserts, and then there's regular enemies, which are blinking. John Wick can defeat up to
Of
3
course there is.
enemies of each type.
Yeah,
And so the first enemies on the shot will just be blinking. So if you shoot a shot with 3 enemies on it, you just get all 3.
yeah.
But if you're neglecting your shots and more enemies are piling up, then they start to get armored and they're tougher. Then it'll take 2 shots on that arrow to defeat them all.
Oh, wow.
And
So-
how does the AI integration work with all of this?
So
Is
the
that-
AI controls how the enemies move. And in those jobs, so the jobs light the mode arrows, and everyone kind of knows that. But the enemies, the blinking blue circles,
Right.
will tend to move towards those. Sometimes they'll move towards the shots. So the simplest way is the enemies will wake up and they'll go, is my shot lit? No. Well, let me get to a shot that is lit. And they can move 1 point left or right. They'll make a decision where to go. And then they'll park on that shot for a while. And then every so often they'll keep moving. So then when the player kind of makes their shots and then suddenly, oh, this shot was free. And then, oh, some enemies are over there. It matches the way, and John Wick can never get from point A to point B in a straight line. He has to defeat everyone to get there. No one lets him
makes
walk
sense.
through a room without him having to do a bunch of judo moves and stuff.
Is there an audio cue or anything, any other indication when they're moving, or is that?
Oh,
just
that's
like
what I'm
happening?
working on right now.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of stuff. Like we constantly look at presentation and choreography, and it's just the balance between the speaker light thing is going to be in the game, the art's going to be in the game, the better sound effect communication. That's all part of developing the game. That's all part of the code journey that you will be
sure.
on, and my job is.
Yeah. Oh, did you say how the new enemies spawn with that?
Oh, so they spawn on a timer, but also from making those targets in the pop bumper slingshot area.
There's like
We
7
call
of
it
them back there.
the dance floor. Yeah.
Dance floor.
And you can't shoot the targets directly, but they all kind of combine to give you more enemies that spawn on the playfield. So
Yeah,
your
if you-
progress, if they having a nice long session there, builds those enemy shots. And those values are uncapped on enemies. They can keep building throughout the game.
Rad.
Yeah.
So I think right now, when people step up to the game, they're getting familiar with, okay, the crate lights the jobs, and then the multi-balls are there. And then the next level, and then the adversaries are there too, which the adversaries are really good scoring opportunities. But the level to build to is just getting some huge job scores, like getting set up for a job and then going into it and then making the most of that.
But so which things stack here then? You can stack a job with most of the multi-balls, right? Or
Yeah, you can stack jobs with all the multi-balls. The adversaries, you can't stack
single.
any multi-balls with each other.
no? Okay.
The adversaries are enforced as single ball modes,
Yes.
and there are no enemies during those because those scenes are really like the one-on-one climactic battles in John Wick.
Yeah.
So you could choose to play on in those, or you could choose to end early by shooting the marker and then shooting into the left eject to kind of cash out those modes. But those have big scoring opportunities because they are more difficult. They're single ball modes where you can't bring in multi-balls with them.
Yeah, understood. So you need to be very skilled with your single ball and your single mode.
Definitely.
Yeah, but that is actually something I really like. A type of mode I like. It's like when you're playing like Sea of Simulation in Tron, right? It's just like you have that one thing to
Yeah.
focus on now. Just do that, right? Don't get confused. Yeah, I love it. So with that said, so when is the next update coming? I'm planning my streaming.
They don't even know
calendar.
it works. I give them estimates. You know what? We have to make sure it goes through all our testing, so we never commit to a date fully. But once it goes through all of our testing process and Nick Wayna tests it and clears it, and it has what we need in it, then we'll put it out there. But expect updates now that we've shipped the pros and the LEs. Expect updates probably at least once a month for a while.
Yeah.
Nice.
To get some new content in and new changes, and then expect, over the summer to get a lot more game in there. I think we're in the end of spring now, so I think over the summer you'll kind of come back to a game and you'll be like, wow, there's a lot in here from where it was.
We love watching
Sure.
it grow. It's awesome. Sweet. Is
Absolutely.
there anything else that y'all wanted to talk about on the stream, Tim or Elliot? Or we covered a lot. We're super hyped. Miss anything?
I'm looking at the chat.
Mm.
Yeah, people are just
Yeah,
kind of asking what else is coming, some details
Yeah.
about the rules. Any sneak peeks at mods or accessories? I said shaker motor, expression lights, and speaker lights will be coming. George says something about time on the topper. That's a good hint, Hoots. I'll let him deliver the hint.
Yeah.
That's a George thing.
Yeah. So one kind of wrap-up question that I kind of have about the game itself is about Lance Reddick, that he plays Charon, the concierge in the New York Continental. He passed away like a month before the premiere of John Wick 4. So he's kind of featured on the game. It's on the center ramp. He's on the group that is standing here between the flippers. Is there any like dedication or Easter egg dedicated to Lance in the game, or is that top secret still?
No, at this point, no, but I don't usually talk about what Easter eggs are in the game.
No.
Yeah, Lance
That's why they're
Reddick
Easter
was,
eggs.
They're Easter eggs.
he was engaged with us in 2022, 2023. Like he was one of the first people to sign on. He's at least from what I've been told, he was a very collaborative guy, and he's done a lot of work in video games too. So it was really unfortunate that he did pass on. And I think it was like right before that premiere of the movie where they did a nice tribute to him on the red carpet at the premiere. The cast.
Yeah. I saw that the movie was dedicated in his memory as well. So sweet. Awesome.
Yeah. Did you see the other questions in the chat, Tim? That you would be able to answer? I guess
I'm
asking
reading
about
them.
content. More content is coming, right? I guess it was saying heavily focused on movie number 4. It's such a pretty movie.
There's a lot of
It's a very
nice
long movie.
comments.
So.
It is a very long movie.
Other movies you just add rain. And then for Elliot, did you take any inspiration from Johnny Mnemonic?
Oh.
I had a question as
It's
well.
just serendipitous.
Yeah, it was always in the back of my mind because the other Keanu Reeves
Keanu
pinball
movie. Yeah.
I did actually, but before doing the layout, I did go out and play it a bunch just to see what that one was all about. And
Nice.
I would say that left ramp is definitely inspired by Johnny Mnemonic. Just a little quick turnaround. Yeah. And then I noticed those two ramps off to the side, the left ramp and the right ramp, the kind of quick backhand, forehand,
Yeah, there's another thing that kind of struck me is because when I play Johnny Mnemonic, I always play the multi-ball when I drop the balls in the pop bumper area, right? And that kind of is the same thing here with the excommunicado. Which multi-ball is that? Is that the consecrated or excommunicado? I can't remember. The one with the
The deconsecrated dumps the balls into the. On the premium, you get all 3 balls ejected into that bumper area. The premium and LE.
Yeah, excommunicado is in the pop bumper area when you hit the targets around.
And that one on the premium does have the ball locks behind the drop target, and the drop target could drop, which kind of knocks it back, but you can really knock it back when you shoot into the drop target. It'll reset and knock that ball back into the. That's like a really cool counter ball area.
Yeah, that's one feature we didn't really talk about was the tripping drop target on the premium LE.
That's right.
It adds a whole different experience to that pop bumper area, red circle area.
Also, you use it as a lock as well. Yeah, there's an opto there. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it is fun when you play that excommunicado multi-ball. You're like building up your I think it's jackpot values in a switch frenzy. So yeah, you can hit that, and then it'll do stuff in there, and then as you're playing the second ball, so it kind of adds a new experience.
Yeah, you get an extra ball on the premium because
Nice.
there's the one locked in there. Whereas on the pro, it starts as a 1-ball multi-ball, and then a second ball is added after the build phase.
Yeah. The remaining question I have to you, Emoto, is just have the premium shipped to Lynn's yet, or no?
Not yet, but it's coming. It's coming. I know.
coming,
I did.
yeah.
I did put a message out there. Feel it.
We heard if you happen to be at the Tacoma show this weekend, there will be a lot of John Wicks there,
Yep.
courtesy
Yeah.
of
Yes.
Wish
Marco
I could
Pinball.
go. Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
gonna be so
know.
much
We
fun.
wish you could go. We wish Tim could come, but we will have
Yeah.
Elliot with us.
I'll be there.
And Randy Martinez. They'll be doing a seminar on Saturday evening for those Stern Army members that are coming up to the show. We're doing a Stern Army gathering on Friday evening, so it's going to be a fun weekend celebrating John Wick. And yeah, we're going to have 20, so 10 pros and 10 premiums in the game room, in the game hall.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It'll be fun, yeah. We're excited.
Bonkers. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Elliot, we'll see you in a couple days. And yeah, we'll do another show when the premium comes out and talk about all the updates and stuff like that. And man, we're super excited for John Wick. So great job, y'all. Thank you.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the great work.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks.
Meta.
Alright.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Matthew, for
Thanks,
your
Tim, Elliot.
awesome collection of games.
See you
Yeah,
soon.
y'all will have to come out and
Yeah,
and
for
play at
sure.
Lynn sometime.
Yeah, come
And,
to Cal Extreme. Cal Extreme, that's the
Yep.
place. Yeah. Come
Mhm.
down here on Thursday
And
with the
so-
full Stern crew.
Everyone else, stick around. We're going to switch back to our main screen and do our giveaways. So, Tim and Elliot, if you guys want to drop off and go enjoy the rest of your day, have your dinners. We
Thank
will
you.
see y'all later.
We'll do.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya. All right.
Oh, man. So what are we doing now? Are we doing raffles?
Yeah, I got to come back. We are going to do some giveaways and talk shop a little bit. That was such a great
That was fun.
live stream.
Yeah, for sure.
It was really cool seeing
And we got
the
a few
match
nuggets.
always with Elliot. Yeah, we did. We got some exclusives on our
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so I'm gonna drop the link in the chat again, y'all. You've probably seen it pop up a few times, but go ahead and fill in your information right there, and I will set up our little fancy giveaway wheel. We're gonna be giving. Ooh, that's fun. Giving away a few Marco tool bags, and then our epic John Wick promo banner.
There's the link.
How do I? Yep, Drive wants to sign up too. He is eligible.
I signed up. I want to win Stern swag.
Matthew's like, I totally sign up. I know,
Alright,
everyone wants to
totally
win the
sign
John Wick banner. It's super, super cool.
Oh, is it?
I
Do you have a
got
picture of it?
Oh, yeah. I do. Somewhere. It's, basically, I might have that. It's him standing, like here. It's a cool John Wick shot of his full frame standing. I don't have like a
Like
picture.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the chibi version. He's like, kawaii. We do not sell game banners. Game banners are not for sale. They are giveaways that we get from Stern. And another way you can win an awesome game banner, sometimes we get them for Stern Army swag, which is super awesome of them. But also come out to a show and play in the Insider Connected Leaderboard Challenge. The top 3 always get prizes at the end of the weekend. So Sunday at noon for Northwest, we'll be giving away the top 3 prizes from the leaderboard, and a lot of times you get a really cool promo banner or a translate. So, super good. Jackie's in the chat. Hi, Jackie. And everyone, thanks for hanging out with us. All right. Let's see. We got some responses in, so I'm going to go ahead and drag them into our wheel. While y'all wait for me, Matthew, what was your favorite part of the live stream today, listening in, and the gameplay so far?
My favorite part of the live stream was when he broke down how that car works and how it knows when the ball hits it, and so it's like having that car on like this internal spring that like kind of shifts it back to an opto. I was like not expecting that at all. And then as far as gameplay on this game, it is amazing. We've already got probably 1,200 games on it already. It's only been here for like a couple weeks, so.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just checked the audits earlier, and yeah, it's about like 1,200.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, so it's, and like our total game time average is 3 minutes, so it's really fast. But I love the speed of it, like how fast it returns back to you, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It is.
The briefcase mech on the premium, I thought that was super amazing how they created those custom switches for it to react to
Yeah,
any
that was-
angle of the hit. That, like, seeing inside of that box was like, oh.
Yeah, that was a bit of a piece of engineering marvel there for sure.
Yeah.
That looked really interesting, and I don't want to take it apart, that's for sure.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I am-
Lead mechanical engineer for a decade turns lead designer. I mean, like, perfect.
Yeah,
I'm really
that's it.
interested to see how the gameplay changes on this right side with that box being there.
Yeah, we need a
Because-
box. We need a premium model.
Right.
Fast.
Because like right now, like
I know. Let me
I
check
use that
my
shot
thing.
as like kind of a bailout safety shot. So like if it's coming down funny and I just kind of throw it from the left flipper over there, and it's like a safety thing where it just kind of stops and then it feeds the right flipper so I can get shots from the right flipper. But with the box down, that's gone. So, and if you hit it wrong, if you hit the bottom of the box, it looks like it's going to hit the bottom and then just feed it to the out lane. So it's going to be interesting to see how it
What is that?
changes gameplay.
Don't look at that. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, it was kind of good to get that
Understood.
explanation as well, how the whole mech is kind of built with the plastic there, and because it didn't make much sense to me why it was, but now it kind of makes sense because it's such a big kind of thing because it's getting hammered constantly, so you kind of need it to be that kind of whole through the play
Right.
field kind of mech to sustain it. And since it's so easy to adjust it anyway, it doesn't really matter,
Right.
Because that's one thing, like you see that you have a little ledge there on yours, right? You can
Right.
just go there and twist that nut until it's flush. Yeah, because that is one thing that we learned on the jaw stream. Like when you align these things in the factory and they travel across the country and you fold it up in an arcade, it's not going to be flush again.
Right.
You have to.
Well, and then like you was saying, the wood
yeah.
cures and like shrinks a
moves,
little bit.
yeah.
And so yeah.
So there's just like a half a millimeter of like lip there that you can easily remove.
Yeah. That's
Which is
awesome.
good. Yeah.
Very
Then you're just
smart.
going to have to live with the randomness of that the ball has different friction there.
Yeah.
Because it's just, if you get a ball spin on a play field, you barely notice it. But if the ball spins in
hits
there,
that.
it just grips it, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Tron disc, but it's stationary.
Right. And then once I add my super band post, which is going to add more spin, it's just going to make it.
Oh yeah. That's
Crazy.
gonna yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that we were talking about it before, me and Matthew. Like when you put a super band post on the center ramp there, it's just like there's going to be so many ways to drain if you miss that shot. Not only if you got the half C, you got the super band post will basically launch the ball straight into the trough.
Like
do not pass the flippers.
It'll airmail it. Like
Yeah.
You hit that super band post in the center, it's going to airmail it back down the playfield on you.
Yeah.
Same with that right one over to that right.
Yeah.
weapons
The
case
game
shot.
is pretty violent
It is.
It is violent.
in the
yeah.
best way. You're just like,
Yeah.
Yeah, but
adore it.
that's kind of like that concern that somebody had in chat that it's hard, right? I mean, I'm sort of there with them because there's like you need to complete 7 jobs for all the different factions to get to like I think that was the staircase, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like all the battles with the adversaries. Those are hard to
That's
modes,
hard.
right? And you're gonna do 5 battles, right? And that to reach special assignment, right? How many extra balls are they going to put in the game?
Yeah. Right now, I
Right.
think we have 2 in here, and
Yeah.
I got 5 of them done.
Yeah, yeah.
So with 2 extra balls. So
With 2 extra balls.
yeah. So when we set it up to normal, which is our no extra ball policy,
Yeah.
it's going to be very difficult to get.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I have no problem. I love pinball when it's short and sweet, right? But it's
Yeah.
just like
John Cena.
it's
All right,
a bit
y'all. I ran the
unobtainable.
first.
All
The
right.
first winner is John Cena.
Yay,
I saw you
John.
on Facebook. Let us know you're in the chat. And you win a new Marco tool bag and some swag. So send us your shipping address to marcotv@marcopinball.com. Nice, very nice. Oh, you switched over from Facebook to nice. That's nice. Oh, you guys can't see the chat. I could probably put the chat in. Okay, it's too much. All right, so for one more Marco tool bag swag pack with our new bags got in. Let's see who it's gonna be, and then we'll keep it. Is it gonna be Jason? Jason Roofer was the winner. Nice. Very cool. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us, Jason. This is the first one, John Cena, right? And then Jason Roofer. And then the one y'all have been waiting for. So Jason, I probably already have it, but send me the best shipping address to marcotv@marcopinball.com. And we'll send you your swag pack. I was the Deadpool prize.
We need that TV.
Oh.
Here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you guys can't see the actual stream.
No, we're watching from behind the bar.
All right, we're gonna reset. So this is for the epic John Wick banner. Okay, cool.
Do we have a new winner? No.
No, not a winner yet. Sorry. There we go. It's rolling. Who's gonna win the John Wick banner for their game room?
Funky.
Did you put your name in there?
I did.
You're not qualified.
Funky.
I was watching it.
He's qualified. He's
I
qualified.
was telling you in the chat the whole time. Oh man.
Spunky,
chat.
congratulations on a roll. Spunky, longtime PinTech live friend. I think Spunky's been around from the beginning of our live streaming. We've been streaming for almost 3 years now, 4 years. How long has it been? It's a long time. But congratulations on that, y'all. Very
Yeah,
cool.
congrats, Spunky.
So that's our 3 winners. We hope everyone gets a chance to play John Wick at your local location.
Sorry, Summer, your opinion
Pinball
means
map.
very little to
Find
me.
them with that. Okay, Rick. Thanks a lot. What a jerk.
Yeah, that was like perfect.
I'm
So
rage
good.
quitting.
Yeah.
I was watching y'all's league night last night, and it was on Rick and Morty, and that it was playing that fart song. And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
so beautiful.
Beautiful.
What about the
Man,
reality
it's so
of your character's
mesmerizing,
answer, Morty?
and then-
The answer is don't think
yeah.
about it.
So when
All
I
right,
was
y'all,
working in here one night, like by myself,
Yeah.
it was like, or one day by myself, I had the front door open and I was working on Big Lebowski, and someone like walks in the door that I didn't see,
Okay, well,
and I heard him go like, hello, and I hit the button on Big Lebowski, and he had the call out where he's like, this is a private residence here, man. And it was like echoed through the arcade, and the woman was
Perfect
like,
timing.
oh my God,
I'm
like,
sorry.
sorry. And I was like, no, it's a call out. Like, it's not.
That
that's
was
the
so
dumbest.
good. It was
That's
like,
the dumbest.
how it's possible that was the call out. Like, no way.
Yeah, those call outs are so great. The little just register. All right.
Ready.
We are going to raid someone. Are you gonna stream later? You guys are
We
Tuesday.
are Tuesday, yeah.
What's
so
Tuesday?
Tutorial Tuesday.
Tutorial.
Yeah,
Tutorial
probably
Tuesday.
around
Probably not.
a little bit earlier than last week, but maybe like 5:36. I think is when Javi's gonna do that. But I will not be on it this time because I gotta go home and pack and go to bed because I'm driving at 4 in the morning.
Right, because you're headed up to Northwest to help us set up all our Stern games. Thank you,
All your
sir.
John Wicks. Yeah.
So many John Wicks. Cool. Well, so if that's the case for everyone on Twitch, we are going to go hang out with Small Town Pinball. Awesome
Do it.
streamers. I haven't seen them in
Hello, small town pinball.
Small Town Pinball. Alrighty. We will see y'all in Tacoma.
That's right.
And this code, the actual PinTech live code, if you guys are interested, is PT-waffles. That's going to be good for this week for our PinTech live. We're not live streaming on Thursday. This took over for that, and then we'll see you next Thursday with something.
It's right there. It's right next to us, yeah. It's supposed to be. Do you remember? You don't remember, do you?
We're doing Labyrinth with Barrels of Fun.
Ooh, yeah, we got to set that up.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All righty, see you guys next time. Goodbye.
See ya. Bye.